Hello and welcome. You have a wonderful soul, and I welcome you to story time with me in the forest. A magical winter, late autumn day, and I brought some very nice folklore, lore stories with me I want to share with you today. And I am very grateful to Nicole, a very good friend, who brought me to this idea. And I think the setting is perfect. I really hope you feel the vibe of meeting a storyteller in the forest. So I will invite you to the tales of the Schrat, the Banshee, and the Krampus or Mother Perchta today. Let's dive deep into it. So I thought, as the days are getting darker and the winter is coming closer, we should take a look at the creatures of winter. The creatures of nature. And I'd say, let's start with the Schrat. The Schrat is a German lore, and it's some kind of a nature spirit. He is a loner and usually lives in the forests to protect the nature there. It is often referred to as a forest, stream, or meadow spirit, especially in southern Germany and Austria. It can transform itself into a black cat or a beetle, but is otherwise invisible to humankind. If it enters the house of its victims, it is also known as Hausschrat or Hauskobold. At its worst, it causes terrible damage and chaos there. Especially at night, it can cause restless sleep. The Schrat can cause Albdruck. Albdruck is also known as Nachtmar and can be understood as the pressure that some people suffering from sleep paralysis feel on their chest. It is as if something is sitting there and squeezing their chest so that they can no longer breathe or move. It can also be known as the source of nightmares that trigger panic and fear in us and deprive us of sleep. Often equated with goblins, they protect their land and the forests, which is why they made life hell for farmers in particular in old legends and fairy tales. The Schrat is a rather creepy creature that takes revenge on people who treat its land unjustly. Torturing people is therefore one of his favorite pastimes. So basically you can imagine the Schrat to be a goblin-like little creature, and my personal opinion to him is that I would rather not meet one in person, that I would rather not mess it up with one. So I am always trying to take care of Mother Nature and to be very kind to her, because you never know where in the forests you are wandering through lives a Schrat and is protecting his land. So this was everything I could tell you right now to the Schrat. Let's move on to the next one, and our next creature lives in Ireland. It's the Banshee. If you hear a shrill, wailing cry, and only you or your closest relatives hear it, then your time on this earth in this body will soon be over. You have heard the Banshee's cry. Don't look into her red eyes glistening with tears. That would end your life immediately. The Banshee, who once belonged to the Tuatha Dé Danann, is the dreaded bearer of a message that we all fear the most. Stories about the Banshee date back to the 8th century. It is said that every Irish family with Celtic roots has its own Banshee, who watches over the family's fortunes and mourns when the death of a family member is imminent. One day, before one of the family members is to pass into the world of the dead, the Banshee sits down in front of the family home and begins her wailing. A screaming and crying that is said to be so terrible that people have lost their minds over it. However, unlike the Schrat, the Banshee is not an enemy of humankind. She is more of a protector and is very interested in the well-being of the families she watches over. In some stories, she's even a gentle woman who accompanies the doomed to the realm of the dead. They are not alone in this and are protected by the guardian of the family beyond death. In Ireland, the pagan festival Samhain is deeply linked to the Banshee, and this makes perfectly sense, as this festival is the festival of the dead and the veil between our own and that of the dead is particularly thin. It is said that she then roams through the streets looking for people to take with her into her realm. The legends about the Banshee are many and varied, and as always, there are no clear rules or precise accounts of the Banshee's appearance or behavior. There are versions in which the Banshee is beautiful, graceful, a graceful young woman who receives family members kindly in death. On the other hand, there are also said to be hateful Banshees, who drive their families mad and whom you would rather not meet shortly before death. The variations are many. My personal opinion about the Banshee is that I actually like every god or goddess or creature that is in the pagan belief system somewhat connected to death. She is just like the goddess Holle, or in Greek mythology the guardian Hermes and the god of death Hades. In Christianity, death was associated with fear, as you never know whether your life was too sinful to be allowed into paradise. And who isn't afraid of hell and endless torture? In pagan beliefs or nature religions, death is usually a natural part of life, and there are spirits, such as the Banshee, who accompany us to give us the feeling that we are not alone. Even if the one or other portrayal is more or less creepy, I would be glad to know that I don't have to face a court alone. So this was the story about the Banshee, and now we come to some sort of grand finale, because my friend actually asked me to research about the Krampus. I don't know if you heard about him. I will tell you shortly a little bit more about him. But as I did my research, I found out that the Krampus is a rather Christian creature, and I found his mother, if you want to call it that way. So I will tell you now about the Krampus and Perchta and what I found out about them. Krampus is a legendary figure who belongs to Christianity and December the 5th. Together with Saint Nicholas, he wanders through the houses and punishes naughty children with his cruel methods, or even kidnaps and eats them, while Saint Nicholas rewards all the good children with presents, which they find in their boots the next morning. Even today, the famous Krampus runs still take place in the south of Germany and in Switzerland or Austria. The Krampus is therefore only about 500 years old. In contrast, the very similar figures of Perchta or Holle are several thousand years old. When the nights are particularly long and cold, when we humans have retreated into our homes and are waiting for the sun to return, we are usually in the time of the so-called Rauhnächte. We should use this time to go inward, welcome the darkness and not anger the spirits. For Perchta, as the leader of the wild hunt, drives the spirits of death across the sky with howling, wailing and screaming. Perchta is the goddess of winter and death. At the same time, she is the protector of the house and farm and the goddess of fertility, as she prepares the soil so that new crops can grow next summer. This goddess hates laziness and punishes her victims with nightmares, or even goes so far as to cut open their stomachs and fill them with stones to sink them in a well. Her cruelty is balanced out by the fact that she rewards the hard working with gold coins or golden spools, just like in the fairy tale Frau Holle. She is closely related to the legendary figure of Frau Holle, and actually only a few hundred kilometers separate these two legends in German-speaking countries. The tradition demanded a food offering made to Miss Perchta. In addition, no laundry may be washed or hung up or wool spun during the time in the Rauhnächte. She demands that all wheels stand still, that the women rest, and the wild hunt can roam countryside undisturbed. Just like the Norse goddess Hel, she has two faces. A beautiful, lovely face that represents her kind, joyful, sunny side, and an ugly, scary face, which even Krampus himself would be scared of. This stands for her cruel and dark side. Even though the names are very similar, Perchta has only been associated with the Perchten since the 18th century, who parade through Austrian and Bavarian towns in their spooky masks during the winter season in an attempt to drive away winter. So Perchta actually has not so much to do with the Perchten, just the name is very similar, and she was like put into these rites in the 18th century. But she's actually a figure of her own. And now I will give you my opinion on Mother Perchta. Mrs. Perchta, or Miss Perchta, or Mother Perchta, I don't know how to call her correctly, Perchta, is the mystical personification of light and shadow, good and evil. Like the goddess Hel, she is a goddess who reminds us that behind every end there is also a beginning, that there will always be evil as long as there is good. Her rules about not working during the Rauhnächte have protected the poor for centuries, giving them a well-deserved and perfectly logical break from their hard, everyday lives. During this time, it was even desirable to do nothing, something extremely important and unusual when you consider that washing clothes was a really laborious and exhausting task just 100 years ago. And here too, Perchta brings balance. If you want to work, you have to rest sometimes. We can use this time for inner recollection, inner peace, deep reflection and seclusion. I am a very big fan of the Rauhnächte tradition, and I think I will listen to Miss Perchta and take my time off and use this time for reflection. And I invite you very much to do so too. So now, all that's left for me is to say that if you liked sitting here with me, if you liked this format of telling stories and sharing a little bit information about these lores, I would love to cover the Wendigo the Wendigo is my absolutely 100% favorite lore of North America. So let me know. Oh, I think my lamp turned off. Yes, yes, nice. So let me know in the comments which lore you like the most, which lore you would like me to cover, or if you didn't like this format at all. I would love to hear your opinion and your thoughts on what I have told you and on the video. So now I will put my book back into my bag and enjoy Mother Nature a little longer. And I thank you so much for watching. I thank you so much for listening, and I wish you the most wonderful day. See you soon, my loves.